Welcome back. Well, judging by the comments, a lot of you folks are ready to start selling on eBay. And the nature of the comments is pretty clear. You know, we've started on Etsy and now we're ready to move to eBay. Tell us how. Well, before we get started on selling on eBay, there are some things you need to be aware of. There are scams, there are pitfalls, there are problems. And I want to throw this out at the very beginning so that going in, you know what the downfalls are and how to best protect yourself against them. So we'll get right into it when we get back. Okay, I personally like the eBay platform. I've been selling on eBay for 20 years. I wouldn't do that if overall I didn't have good experiences on eBay. But there are scams, there are problematic buyers, there are problematic sales. And this is just a fact. There are going to be times when you are going to take a loss on an item or two. Reconcile yourself to that going in, because not every dispute is going to be resolved in your favor. So what this video is about is making you aware of some of the common problems. And sometimes they are just problems. Other times they are scams. So we're going to tease those apart, and we're going to look at strategies that can protect you from both the legitimate problems and undue consequences from them and from scams. So some of these are based on my own personal experiences, and some of what I'm going to tell you is based on the experiences of others. So let's start with probably the number one problem that eBay sellers have faced over the years, and I've been on 20 years. It was a bigger problem 20 years ago than it is today, but it's still an issue. You still have to deal with it. And that is the item not received. So a buyer buys an item from you, and then a week, 2 weeks, a month goes by, and they go to eBay and say, I want a refund because I haven't received the item. Now, one of two things has happened. Either they have not received the item, in which case you have to give them a refund. There's no way around it. Of course you do. I'm sure that's what you want to do, because I know we all want to be responsible sellers. Two, they did get the item and they're simply saying they didn't. So in the second case, you're dealing with a scam. You're dealing with someone who has in fact received the item, and they're just saying they haven't because they want the item and they want the money. The best way, the only way to protect yourself from that particular scam is with tracking. You mail your items through the USPS and you have tracking. It's a tracking number. When the post office confirms the item's been delivered, problem solved. If they go to eBay, you provide the tracking and eBay says, aha, the item was delivered, and they resolve the claim in your favor as a seller. It's automatic when you purchase your shipping either through eBay or through PayPal. And you can do it either way. I find it easier to do it directly through eBay. They fill out the label for you, so on. It just goes. Not a problem at all. If you have to go to the post office, make sure you get the tracking number. And also, if you're buying your postage online through USPS, make sure you're keeping track of this. If the tracking shows the package arrived, eBay's position is the package arrived and you're in the clear. And again, if it shows the package did not arrive, well, it didn't arrive, and you will have to give your buyer a refund. That, thank goodness we have good postal service. That is very unlikely. Has it happened? Yes, it has happened. It happened to me back in, early 2000s when there were anthrax scares at the post offices, and things were shipped out. They would be in post offices. It would take weeks. In fact, in one case, it took months for them to adequately screen the post office because of an anthrax threat. It's happened. So, and it doesn't have to be anthrax, by the way. The post office does occasionally lose packages. Very rare. So even though the complaint may be common, the solution is right there in your hands, tracking. So that was number one. Number two, your buyer says the item is damaged. It's not as described. It doesn't work, whatever. And they want to do a return on that basis. Well, again, we have a couple of things going on. Either they are making a legitimate complaint. It's damaged. It arrived damaged in transit. There was some undisclosed damage, or the other possibility, of course, is the item is fine. They just want to return it. So let's start with legitimate damage. Your best protection against shipping damage is insurance. Your best insurance through eBay is ship cover. When your buyer says, my item has been damaged, ship cover pays. The post office will only reimburse you if you've purchased USPS insurance, or if you've sent your item by priority. Priority carries $50 in insurance automatically, but in addition to this, the post office will rarely honor a claim unless the exterior of the box is damaged. I mean, we all know things can be damaged in transit because somebody's taken a box and popped another box on it and things got crushed, but the box is okay. Or they toss the box off the truck and there's no damage to the box, but the contents are damaged. Personally, I consider the USPS insurance to be worthless. I will take it if they're giving it to me for free, but when I purchase insurance, I purchase ship cover because they will be there for you. And they don't handle this the same way the post office does. The post office pays it off if they want to, and they don't if they don't. I've found that approximately 50% of the claims I've filed with USPS for damage in transit have been denied for whatever reason, and the post office is judge, jury, and executioner in this matter. When they say no, you can go through an appeals process, but if they say no, it's no. So insurance is number one. What you can do if it has not been damaged in transit, your best protection is very good, clear photographs. eBay gives you like 12 photographs. Make sure you photograph everything. Make sure your photos are clear and crisp. Make sure your description is accurate and that your item is fully documented. That makes it much harder for a buyer to say, well, it's damaged. Because if they say it's damaged, your first response needs to be, I'm so sorry, because I know you are. Could you please send me pictures? Very few people who are looking to negotiate over a damaged item, well, allegedly damaged item, are going to deliberately smash the item. And if it's not legitimately damaged, the request for pictures will usually resolve the issue right then and there. They do not ordinarily respond beyond that. If they do, if the item is damaged, and if that damage is not in your description and not in your pictures, they can return the item. You will have to give them their money back. And then at that point, you are going to want to ask yourself, is it worth it for me to pay return postage? If the item was not expensive, you might just want to let them keep it. If it was a relatively expensive item, you are going to have to pay for the postage and you're going to have to pay for the return. If, in fact, this is a complete scam and they're saying the item is damaged or not as described, a lot of times they are doing this so that they can negotiate a discount. Again, your request for pictures, especially if they're saying it's damaged or not as described, could very easily put the situation to rest. You've given them 12 good, clear pictures. They need to show you something you haven't shown them. Remember, pictures are part of your description. And you should, by the way, you should say that in your listing. Pictures are part of my description. That's simple. Is it possible that someone can fabricate a damaged or not as described claim and they want a little bit of a discount? Sure. Is it worth it to give it to them? If someone will go away for 10% off, I would say yes. If they want 50% off and there's nothing wrong with the item, depending upon the price of the item, that's the point at which I would say, well, return it. And suck up and deal, eat the postage, get it back. Because keep in mind, if this goes to eBay, eBay has a strong history of siding with the buyer. So you need to assert your rights very early in the process. Like I say, request the pictures of whatever damage they have allegedly found. And that can usually just sort of head it off at the pass. When they've asked you to send the item to another address. Now, your buyer makes a purchase. Their address shows up in your eBay account. When it's sold, it's all in the receipt. There is usually something, and you must always look for this, that will say verified. Is this a verified address? Only ship to verified addresses. If it's not a verified address, you're not going to ship to it. That's all there is to it. You cannot ship wherever they tell you to and have any hope that if they make a later complaint that eBay is going to take your part, because you will have avoided eBay's process of shipping to a verified address. So it's extremely important, and that's the term you want to see. You want to see verified. As long as you ship your item to a verified address, you can prove through the tracking that it arrived. But let us say, for example, a buyer says to you, oh, I just moved. Can you send it to my new address? No, you can't. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I have to send it to the address that's verified on your PayPal account. This is eBay's policy. And remember, you're hiding behind eBay, you're hiding behind PayPal. This is, in fact, their policies. I'm not making that up. You need to send it to a verified address. See, sometimes people will get you to send an item to another address. They get the item, and then you can't prove. You sent it off to, allegedly their cousin in Detroit. I'm going to be with my cousin for a week. Can you send it there? No. eBay doesn't care if you sent it to the cousin in Detroit. If you didn't send it to the verified address, as far as they're concerned, it didn't arrive. So The way to avoid that particular issue, and it's not always a scam, and sometimes people really are at their cousins in Detroit. You just can't accommodate them. Sometimes they really have moved. They've got to update their addresses. This is their problem, not your problem, and you can't solve it. They have to solve it. Obviously, these are your customers. You need to be polite when you let them know, but you just tell them it's a violation of eBay and PayPal rules. You have to send it to the verified address. Most people who are not scammers are very good about this, so it shouldn't be a great issue. Okay, so what happens when somebody says, I've gotten the item, I don't like it, it's whatever, doesn't work, damaged, I want to return it. And they return it. And it's not the item you sent. Now, this never happened to me, so I cannot speak to this personally. This did happen to other doll dealers that I know, because sometimes with a doll, the little teeny tiny accessories, like that little Barbie compact from Roman Holiday, are wildly expensive, extremely rare. Sometimes people will buy a doll, get that doll and then the fancy outfit and so on, and just take out the little accessory they're missing and say, I want to return this. And they return it, and it comes back with the little accessory missing. So what do? And that, of course, is theft. That is a scam. That is theft. But how do you deal with that? How do you prove it? One of my friends who was a doll dealer got burned a couple of times and it was, in both cases, with little teeny tiny but very valuable accessories. And what he took to doing was videotaping when he opened a return package. You know when the returns are coming. Usually you've had to supply the label, but you'll have the tracking number on the return. You know when it's arriving. And these days, it's so much easier than it was 20 years ago, because everybody has a cell phone, and everybody's cell phone has time-stamped video capabilities. So you video opening the package. It doesn't always work, but sometimes that will work with eBay. If you can say to eBay, I have video of opening the package and taking the items out, make sure the video is clear and uninterrupted, and we go out and here the accessories are missing, I can give you the video. That will sometimes work. Sometimes it won't. But your best protection against a situation like that is making sure that you are dealing with responsible buyers. A buyer can check your feedback as a seller. You need to check their feedback as a buyer too. And after a while, you'll get to know, who are the good buyers and who are the sketchy buyers. It's not like it used to be 20 years ago, because sellers can no longer leave negative feedback for buyers, but there will be trends you will be able to see once you get used to watching the feedback sellers leave for buyers that can indicate sketchy buyers. Also, keep in mind, if people do this frequently, eBay will catch on, so they will very often have to swap out their buying account, close one, start a new one. I have found my best protection is I will not do business with customers who have less than 10 feedback. That's right in my listings. If you have less than 10 feedback, or if your feedback is private, I reserve the right to cancel your bids or cancel the sale. It's in there. I have done it. So that is the best way to protect yourself, because you need to be dealing with buyers who have a lot of feedback. I know sometimes it's tempting to take a sale from a buyer who doesn't have a lot of feedback, but use your judgment on this. If you are selling them, a $10 figurine, sure. But if in fact you are selling them a $500 doll who happens to have an outfit with a very rare and expensive little hat, that's when you need to think about this. But dealing with buyers who have already cut their teeth on other sellers is probably your best bet. And of course, videoing the returns. Sometimes that will work, sometimes it won't, but it will improve your odds of prevailing if in fact, someone does scam you in this way. Hijacked listings. This happens. I once listed a little Barbie jacket. It was like this big. It was at auction. I started the auction off at 99 cents. Now, the thing about Barbie buyers, and this is probably true for other specific collectors, but it's a big thing with Barbie buyers, is they're snipers. They see an item they want, they track it until the end of the auction, and then they snipe. They make their bid in the last couple of minutes of the auction, usually the last couple of seconds. Well, I got a cranky note from a would-be buyer who said, "What happened to that little jacket?" I was watching that. I planned to bid on it. I went to my little Barbie jacket. Mind you, little Barbie jacket auction starts at 99 cents. And what do I see? A golf cart for $1,500. Good Lord, it's not my golf cart. Never seen this golf cart before. This was a really professional looking ad. But the payment terms were a little weird. Contact me for payment information. I didn't know who they were contacting. Turns out my listing was hijacked. This is something, if it happens to you, it's not your fault. You can't avoid it. We're talking about high-level hackers, because this is not easy. This is not the sort of thing that, your grandchild with 2 years of computer programming is going to be able to pull off. No. These are serious, serious scams. And they will hijack your listing, put their own contact information, which, by the way, is not their contact information, and in order to get someone to give them $1,500 for a golf cart that buyer is never going to see. This is a high-level crime. Something like this happens, you need to notify eBay immediately. And they will deal with it. You don't have to worry about this. They will deal with this because eBay has their own computerized records. They know what your listing was, and hopefully they'll be able to sort out the hacker. But at that point, you are out of the loop. This is a computer crime. They deal with it. So that was one of my strangest experiences as a seller. Now, there are a few other problems that you can encounter. The chief among them are feedback extortion. That's something that I don't think I've ever dealt with that. I've dealt with people who have implied that if I didn't give them what they want, they would trash my feedback. But it's never happened. The way this one works is someone goes to you as a seller and says, well, I have the item. I'd like a discount. If you don't give me a discount, I'm going to leave negative feedback. Again, you don't even have to deal with this. You go straight to eBay. It's a violation of eBay policies. They are not allowed to do this. It's called feedback extortion for a reason. eBay will immediately clamp down on them. And so this, like the listing hijack, you take that to eBay, they will resolve it for you. Anytime anyone threatens your feedback, if you don't give them what they want, whatever it is, always take it to eBay. They will deal with it. I should mention, because this was actually kind of strange and well, strange. And I, frankly, eventually it became comical. And this one happened about 10 years ago. Um, a young woman who clearly had some serious mental health issues had made purchases from a number of Barbie sellers, other people I knew, not just me. And she became convinced, and now she was delusional, there's no question about that. She became convinced that another eBay seller who had nothing to do with dolls was posting coded messages defaming her in his listings. And as far as she was concerned, they were there for the whole world to see. You know, I've discounted this item. Well, you know what that means in code, right? Okay, not a lot you can say at that point. She went to PayPal, not to eBay. She went to PayPal and canceled payments on a whole bunch of sales. Some of the sellers had not tracked their packages. There was nothing they could do. I had tracked mine. I was not negatively impacted, but she liked me. She liked me. She did not believe I was part of the conspiracy to defame her on eBay. But she did believe some of the other people were, and people took some really significant losses. This one was kind of sad and tragic because clearly the woman was not responsible for whatever it was she was doing. I believe she honestly believed that there was some sort of grand conspiracy. People were out to hurt her. It wasn't a scam. On the other hand, the sellers who ended up taking losses certainly didn't know the difference. How to avoid this is very easy. If you have a buyer and you are in correspondence with a buyer, I was in correspondence with her. I knew that she believed someone was placing coded messages in the listings. I even went over and checked the listings, told her I couldn't find anything negative about her. I was hoping to persuade her to get some therapy. I was just social workering all over her. When you are dealing with someone who is clearly not in full control of their faculties, let's just put it that way, the very best thing for you to do is block them. You can't help them. I couldn't help her. All you can do is just not do business with them. And you can block buyers very, very easily by going into your sitemap. The bottom on eBay, there's a little string of words down at the bottom. Click the one that says sitemap. You pull up buying, selling, and when you pull up your selling tools, you'll find your blocked buyer list. Use it. If you have difficulty with buyers, there are millions of eBay buyers. There is no one buyer that you need that badly. If they become difficult, if you have reason to believe they're not on top of what's going on, block them. It's really the only way. So hopefully you'll be able to look at this information, and as we go forward, just remember, we have strategies for dealing with all of them. Tracking numbers, good photographs, accurate descriptions, videoing returns, requesting pictures. And of course, if your buyers legitimately have a problem or an issue, resolve it quickly. Resolve it politely. It's not their fault that something was broken in transit. Just remember that. You want to be a good seller, but good sales practices are the best way to protect yourself from scammers. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. You all have a great day.